Hey everybody, it's Natalie Bencivenga and Desmond Price, of course. We're so excited to be with all of you. It's been a minute since we've done
It's
a
been a
live
little while.
together.
Yes, it
Yeah, I
has.
was having withdrawal personally. I was very sad that I haven't been able to do this with you live. So I'm really excited to be with you, an independent thought tonight. So thanks so much for having me tonight, Desmond. It's great.
Of course, of course. No, it's been a little bit too long, but
Hmm.
thankfully we've been able to get back at it a little bit here.
Yes.
Hopefully more consistently. Yeah.
Yes, we were doing it about like once or twice a week, and that was really fun. And obviously, there's so much to talk about. We
Yes.
certainly have a plethora of things we want to discuss with all of you tonight. But as always, if you have thoughts or comments or questions about anything that we're covering or things you want to add, please feel free to put them in the chat. And here are the 4 topics we're going to be discussing tonight. So, we're going to be talking about 2 executive orders that the Trump administration has just signed. One related to flag burning and free speech, and the other around ending cashless bail. So this is going to be an interesting one for sure. And then we're going to talk about something going on in my neck of the woods over in Pennsylvania. United States Representative Summer Lee was recently denied access to an ICE detention center here in Pennsylvania, one of the largest in the region. There were protests there actually this weekend. So we'll be talking about what that means and why she was denied. And then, of course, your favorite person and mine. Sorry, my thing just decided to fall here. Your favorite person and mine. See, even my phone doesn't want to talk about him. RFK Jr. He is unfortunately making headlines again by suggesting that the COVID vaccine may not be available to anyone in the coming months. This has started to be reported by certain outlets. I'm taking it with a grain of salt because I'm concerned that they're once again just sowing more misinformation. But we are going to talk about what that could mean and other things that are happening in the public health sphere, including a lot of doctors, 270,000 to be exact, fighting against him. So this is great, great news. And then we're going to end things on a note focused on some updates that we're learning about what is going on in Gaza, including the fact that Israel is now trying to recruit Americans to join the IDF because they are unable to get enough people in Israel to join this fight. So a lot to discuss. And Desmond, let's kick it off with the flag burning. If you want to tell everybody what's been going on.
Right. So we got this information. I mean, this information has been coming out just about everywhere, but I found
Mm-hmm.
this from our friends on Ground News. Definitely our friends over there. They are talking about 2 different executive orders that recently were passed,
Mm-hmm.
as we mentioned before. One of them being the flag burning one, where Trump
Mm-hmm.
declared that if you burn a flag, you will get 1 year in jail. No early exits, no nothing. This is a direct quote here. Adding, and you will see flag burning stopping immediately as all his predictions come true. White House Staff Secretary Will Scharf, don't know how to pronounce his name, said the Justice Department will be tasked with reviewing incidents and bringing charges where prosecution wouldn't fall afoul of the First Amendment because they always follow
Mm.
the law. So
Yeah.
important to note here that this has been well litigated over the
Mm-hmm.
years, specifically from the Supreme Court in a case called Texas v. Johnson. This was in 1989. That burning the American flag is constitutionally protected symbolic speech, and
Yeah.
reaffirmed that protection in the United States v. Ekman the following year, striking down the Flag Protection Act. Trump has long called for jail time for those who desecrate the flag, and said Monday, when you burn the American flag, it incites riot. Uh, Natalie, it's been a little
Darling.
bit. It's been a little
Yes.
bit. So, I'm trying to find my footing here. Don't want to go off on too much of a tangent here. I think
Sure.
you should go first on this one. How did you react to Donald Trump saying that apparently now he's going to be throwing people in prison for burning flags, which apparently he somehow plans on doing, even though he can't do, but he's going to do? Like, where are we at right now?
Right. I mean, it's hard anymore to tell what is distraction from the things that are actually going to kill us and what are the things that Trump just wants to say to distract us from the realities that are going to kill us that they are putting in place. For me, this one um, was interesting in the sense that I asked myself, I wonder why there is this kind of energy for this meaning, cracking down basically on freedom of speech, because that's what it is. It's a symbolic gesture of saying that you are frustrated and you are angry at what the government is doing. It is a peaceful form of protest. The man that was arrested burning the flag that sort of set all of this off was a 20-year veteran, a combat veteran. And what concerned me about it was, imagine if they had this kind of energy for things like, gun control. And I always find it funny, Desmond, how the only amendment and the only part of the Constitution that ever seems to matter to these people is protecting your right to bear arms. But everything else, the right to assemble, the right to freedom of speech, the right to practice or not practice religion, all of that seems to fly right out the window whenever they decide that they want to do something that's going to, once again, inhibit our ability to stand against fascism and a dictator, which is exactly what we have in the White House. So the hypocrisy for me was the first thing that jumped out about this. And also what you said, this is not a law. This is a scare tactic to try to suppress people from peacefully protesting. And that's what is going on here. What did you think?
Donald Trump is basically one of two things at this point. He is either a person who just thinks of things on the fly and wants to make them stick because it's an ego trip for him, or he gets fed different objectives from his donor class or Stephen Miller or some other person with an agenda in the White House. And he has lots of favors to repay because a lot of people helped him get back into the White House this time around after he was seeming left for dead after January 6th a few years ago. So I think this falls into the category of Stephen Miller, because this screams nationalism all day long, right? I mean, at the end of the day, while a lot of people are upset about America right now, burning the flag isn't a super common practice.
No.
Right? So I have to imagine that this is one of those things where when they do come across somebody who does this and they want to put them in prison, they're going to be going around with all their different media apparatchiks talking about oh, we're just trying to root out radical leftism or whatever. But what they're really trying to do here is they're going to put somebody in prison, knowing that a judge is going to immediately overrule it. And that's going to allow Donald Trump to throw this up to the Supreme Court, where he wants to see if he can get this Supreme Court to do what they've done previously, which is overturn previous decisions by previous Supreme Courts. So that's what I believe is trying to be attempted here. I think you're going to see this in multiple cases going forward. I think Donald Trump wants to use this Supreme Court to essentially rewrite the laws or the decisions that he doesn't like from the past. Because what he wants to create here is his nationalist dream of making this a more fascistic state. And he is doing this little by little over time. And the things we've seen him do in less than a year are things that even the people who were talking about what was going to happen with Project 2025 or, oh, he'll do this, he'll do that. Even all of the people who were thinking of the most just out there ideas of what Donald Trump's second term could be, they haven't predicted what it actually has been. It's been worse on all accounts. It really has been. And so at this point, what I believe what Donald Trump wants is I believe he wants something similar to what Putin has in Russia, is complete control over a population. And so I think little by little, he's trying to attack these things, around the edges. And this is just one more thing that he can kind of go after. He doesn't like dissent, and he wants everyone to love America.
Yeah. It's hard to love a country that's actively trying to harm you, right? And so to your point, if you won't kiss the ring, the next thing that will happen is imprisonment or banishment. And I think you're right. I think there is this installation of fear. And also, to take it a step further, I do believe that they want to expand our jail system even further, and they want to criminalize more and more and more things, which really leads us into the second executive order, if you'd care to share a little bit about that.
Right. So Trump also signed another executive order on bail reform. The order threatens to revoke federal funding from cities and states that have eliminated cash bail. This was put forward by Representative Elise Stefanik, Republican from New York. She said that she would introduce legislation to outlaw cashless bail nationwide. So this will be a separate track. This would be legislation they want to get passed. Trump has repeatedly argued that the practice allows offenders to avoid accountability and return to the streets. You know what? It'd be okay. Can I go first on this one?
You sure can.
Okay. It's complete bullshit, everyone. Okay. First and foremost, I cannot stand, for those who have been watching or, follow my account for quite some time here, I relentlessly talk about like the right-wing propaganda machine. And this is one of those other issues that they constantly throw out there that is nothing but lies and disinformation. Not misinformation, is disinformation. For the simple fact
Mhm.
that they try to make it seem as though when you get rid of cashless bail, you're just like, oh, you're just letting all these criminals back onto the streets. At the end of the day, when you are being granted the ability to be let out of jail on bail, a judge is deciding in that moment that you are safe to return to society. That is their decision, because they thought that you weren't safe. They would remand you until your trial date. The only difference between there is whether or not you get out or not is if you
Mhm.
pay money. And
Right.
so if a judge determines that you are allowed to go home, why should it matter if you have money or not? That is the entire debate on cash bail. You shouldn't be you shouldn't be forced to stay in jail because you don't have the money to get out. So a
Mhm.
rich person who has enough money, or a person of means has enough money, they can leave, but you can't because you don't have enough money. No, that's ridiculous. That's completely ridiculous. There's nothing there. This is something about public safety. This is about class. And so I am totally disgusted by this, because it's just another one of those things where the right tries to like change the narrative and try to make it into something that it isn't. And then we're all sitting here debating their stupid narratives and talking points because I don't even know at the end of the day, Natalie. I'm so tired of like them like designating what the battlefield is and the rest of us just playing along with it. We really have to change that paradigm as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you completely. I've had plenty of local judges on here in Pittsburgh talking about this issue and
Yeah.
how whether or not you have cash really isn't a clear understanding of how you're going to behave, if you are released while waiting trial. And also, a lot of people sit in jail for petty crime, for things that they should not have to be in jail for. And they may sit there for months
Yeah.
over things like public urination, simple little uh, misdemeanors that were supposed to be overnight, but they didn't have money to get out, and they sit and they languish. This is a waste of our tax dollars. It's a waste of our resources. It's inhumane. It doesn't help a lot of people, and I think it is a racist, classist policy. But that is exactly what this administration is trying to bring back, right? Is that sense of hierarchy. And I was looking to my left while you were speaking because I had pulled up PolitiFact, because PolitiFact has talked a lot about this. And everything that you said is exactly in line with what they're saying, in the sense that there is really no reason, if you aren't considered a threat, and the only thing separating you from going outside is having $1,000 or $1,500 or $10,000. I mean, that is not money that everybody has just in their pockets, or that their family has, or that somebody can loan them. So to me, this is an archaic system.
Yeah.
And if you are considered a flight risk or a violent, if they're concerned that you will be violent, then you shouldn't have that option anyway.
You wouldn't be
So
eligible for bail in the first place.
exactly.
They would
So this
remand
is,
you until your trial date.
yes, this is a money grab. And once again, I believe a way to continue to expand our private prison systems. And that is really where these first two issues of these executive orders have me the most concerned. Is there are a lot of activists that I talk to here in Pittsburgh that are trying to end these kinds of issues and create more equity. And now you've got this wall of fascists, falling on all of us, trying to force us back into these spaces that try to define who we are based off of things like the amount of money that we have access to. I mean, this is really no different than the flip side of this, where Trump said, oh, if you have $5 million, you can basically get a golden ticket and move to the United States, right? That's the flip
Right.
side of that coin. This is just a way to create a safe haven for the ultra rich, and to punish those who don't have the means to survive in this capitalist hellscape that we've created.
Right. I want to just insert one more thing before we transition to a
Sure.
different topic here. The underlying piece of all of this that I think also I did not discuss earlier is the fact
Mm-hmm.
that we are talking about people who are let out on bail awaiting their trial, which means they haven't been declared guilty.
That's right.
And so there are so many times where these are people who are going to end up being innocent of the charges that are being, pushed against
Mm-hmm.
them. And yet they're forced to stay in jail. And let's just compound this for a little bit here. Because if you don't have the money to get out of jail, let's just think about what kind of life you're probably living at that point in time. You're
I
probably
know.
living paycheck to paycheck. You
Mm-hmm.
probably are on the verge of homelessness because
Mm-hmm.
most people living paycheck to paycheck are on the verge of homelessness. And so if
Mm-hmm.
you miss a week or 2 weeks worth of work, you're probably out. You're probably
Yeah.
going to lose that job. You're probably going to lose your home. You're probably
Mm-hmm.
going to end up being homeless. The domino effect here is
Yeah.
absolutely criminal as far as I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned. Cash bail's existence is an affront on society as far as I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned.
100%. And it looks like people are agreeing with you. We have Carol who says, in this economy, more people will fall into this group. And I think that's where we're all headed here is there's this giant gap continuing to grow. And there's very, very few people that are moving this way. And most people are going to be pushed in the opposite direction.
Right.
If you're just joining us, I'm Natalie Bencivenga, and I'm with Desmond Price of Independent Thought. And we're back at it, doing it live after a couple of months. And I'm really excited for one. I wish we were talking about sunshine and puppies, but unfortunately, we've got some heavy topics in front of us. But it's always good to sort of unpack them with you. So thanks to everybody that's joining us. And Desmond, if people want to subscribe to our channels, where can they go?
Yeah, so if you're on Substack right now, you can go ahead and click the top of the screen right here, and you can follow both of our accounts. You can also follow us on Instagram, on YouTube, Spotify,
Yeah, I'm on there now.
TBD. Okay, so all of those places, definitely go check out Independent Thought and Natalie Bencivenga, Facts Over Fear.
Thank you so much. All right. We're going to move things along here because we've got another story coming out of Pennsylvania. Just yesterday, the Trib Live is reporting that U.S. Representative Summer Lee, who is a Democrat from my neck of the woods, she literally is 5 minutes from me, on Monday, she became the latest congressional Democrat denied entry at a federal immigration detention center. Just yesterday, this was on Monday, August 25th. Lee was denied access to Moshannon Valley Processing Center. Now, I didn't realize this, Desmond, but this is the largest immigration detention center in the Northeast in the state of Pennsylvania. So I actually know some people that have their family members are there currently. And so they are hitting all around Pittsburgh constantly. She traveled to this detention center along with a human rights attorney to ascertain the living conditions of the 2,000 or so individuals being detained by ICE at this former prison. And during a press conference, she said that she said this: "We've also seen violence against members of Congress who have attempted to conduct their legally protected oversight duties. We waited for over an hour at the gate to be let in, but the ICE agents, unsurprisingly, denied us." They said the officials at the center gave her a letter from a security informing her that they require a 7 days notice for the visit, but she reminded them that as members of Congress, it's our constitutional right to conduct oversight of this situation. And she said this is yet again another example of the Trump administration's executive overreach. Desmond, when you hear about this happening, and I know it's happening all over the country, but once again, Representative Summer Lee has been at the forefront of a lot of human rights issues around the country and the world. What are your thoughts hearing that she was denied access here in Pennsylvania?
This situation feels less like an individual story and more like a collective story.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, we have to acknowledge the fact that Donald Trump has exposed so many different gaps in our democracy, or what we thought was a democracy.
Yeah.
When Congresswoman Summer Lee talks about she has a constitutional right to do this particular duty, and the president can just turn around and be like, "I don't care," and then there's no repercussions for it. In the past, there was always, "I have this power, I'm going to exercise," and everyone agreed, "Yeah, you do have this power, you can exercise it." That's all being challenged in every way, shape, or form across this country right now by Trump and by his regime. And so my question going forward is, what's to stop the next person from doing this again, and the next person from doing this again, and the next person from doing this again? I mean, we have to, I think the only way this country can truly move forward from this moment in time is if the next person who takes office, truly, I think there kind of has to be a prosecution of this entire regime. Like, I think
Mm.
people need to go to jail. I think laws need to be apparently like revised or rewritten completely. And I think there needs to be real consequences for everyone who is sitting in this executive branch right now. Like, Trump probably is untouchable due to that recent Supreme Court decision that said that, official acts cannot be punished. But I got to tell you, just about everybody else needs to be on trial. I want to see an actual attorney general, unlike Merrick Garland, who will take these people, put them on trial, and put them in prison. Because what we are seeing right here is a complete destruction of every single norm that we thought that we had. It's like members of Congress are supposed to be able to go into these ICE facilities and make sure that they are being upheld to the standards that they're supposed to be upheld to. And yet, time and time again, they're being denied access. They're being attacked. They're being, they're being detained. I mean, like, it's enough, man. It's enough. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, not just this issue. I mean, there's just so many different
Mm-hmm.
issues that are being abused right now, but this is just one more that just tells me that, everything that was normal as far as like how the government's supposed to operate is gone now. And we
Yeah.
should stop pretending like, that things are normal right now, because they're not.
No, I really appreciate that because I think about this constantly. Well, yeah, constantly. That I also am hoping that there will be a reckoning, a real moment where they are held accountable for their crimes against humanity, much like the Nazis were. I don't think there is really any differentiation between what we are seeing now and what we saw during Germany in the 30s and 40s. The only thing that is different is, will we let it get to the point that it became when we were there, in 1940s. I just wanted to add these 2 points as well. To your point, this is a symptom of a larger issue, right? Summer's denial into this space is just one of many Congress people who have been denied.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that 13 people have died in ICE's custody just this year. So the fact that people are dying in these detention facilities, you're not supposed to die due to conditions in a facility, period. That's not a thing that's supposed to happen. So if that's happening, that in of itself is a huge red flag. And exactly that we know of. There could be a lot more. Also, let's not forget, this is the tip of the iceberg, because Trump is allocating $75 billion with a B dollars to ICE in just 4 years, and there will be $170 billion for immigration. I use that word loosely because really it's about deportation and ICE and detention centers. And so I think it's important that we understand that unless these people are called on the carpet and real charges are brought against them at some point, to your point, this is what concerns me too. Now that we know that the emperor has no clothes and this democracy was even more fragile than I think a lot of us realize, what would stop somebody from doing this again and again? But I also want to note that this can get very, very sad and very frustrating, but people are fighting back. Just this weekend, there were hundreds of people protesting at Moshannon at this detention center. It is being covered. People here in Pennsylvania are not okay with what is going on. We are fighting this. And I did meet a woman whose husband is being detained there. And she told me that, yes, this space has 2,000 people in it. And there's only like 4 rooms and there's 500 in a room or something. And there's only a few bathrooms. And the bathrooms have just like a curtain. There's very little privacy. There's really just no consideration for just your own humanity. And you have to pay something like, she said, $12 for a bar of soap. So not only are we harming people and humiliating them, but we're exploiting them as well. And once again, the ripple effect of when you have people who may have been the breadwinner of a family now being forced into a detention center for no crime other than just being here, and you're leaving families without economic stability or familial stability. Now you've just sent a family into a cascade. She's actually at a shelter right now with her children because her husband's business had to shut down because he's no longer there. And so they lost their income. And now she's at a shelter. how is this making any of us safer? How is this making any of our communities more able to thrive? This is cruelty. This is xenophobia. This is racism. There's no other words for it than that. And so, yeah, I hope one day these people are all called on the carpet, because in my opinion, these are crimes against humanity, 100%.
I wanted to address a comment that we see here from Independent Voter, saying that I can barely listen to these discussions because it makes me so disgusted and angry.
I know.
I want to tell you, just very honestly, like I could not agree more. I mean, like, as somebody who is trying to sit in front of you, talk about the news, I post things on this platform, several other platforms. It gets to me. It gets to me a lot. And I don't know what to say sometimes when I get on here. And the question constantly comes up for me is like, what are we supposed to do? Because there is this overwhelming feeling of powerlessness, like it feels like there are so many negative things happening in the world right now. And it feels like we don't really have the answers. The one thing I do know is that the answer of doing nothing, or I think like disengaging completely, like I think it's okay to take breaks, and I think people should take breaks. I would just hope that people don't disengage completely, because that's what they want from us. They really do. They really want us to check out. They want us to become overwhelmed, and they want us to drop out of these conversations. They want us to just let them have free reign to do whatever they want to. And they will have that the more of us that do check out. So I appreciate the fact that everyone's exhausted. I'm exhausted. I am legitimately exhausted. I did not want to open up any of these apps yesterday and look at what's happening in our country. But I do know at the end of the day that is what they want from all of us. They want us to just be so overwhelmed that we give up, and I will not give that to them. So I hope that, if nothing else, that we can all just collectively agree on that together.
Amen to that. Okay, quick mental health check-in. Desmond, what is your comfort show of choice this week?
My comfort show of choice. Oh man. I don't have a comfort show of choice this week, but I will tell you what I watched last night. Okay.
Tell me.
We watched Jaws last night.
I love Jaws.
It was my first time ever seeing Jaws.
Stop it.
It was my first time ever seeing Jaws. So I've told this to Natalie before, but my partner and I, we are watching we have this list of movies that we bought from I don't know, I forget where we got it from, but it's like a little scratch off thing. So we're scratching all these movies off. It's like predetermined for us. One of the movies on there was Jaws. I've never seen it before. We watched it last night for the first time. I was whelmed. Not over or under. I was just whelmed.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, we're gonna have to talk about it. We'll talk about it later.
Yeah,
it's fine.
We'll talk about it later. Okay. That's what I did. I think to kind of to go off that a little bit. I think it's important to check out here and there, in very brief instances, to allow yourself the space to collect yourself, right? Because I think because there's so much news that if you wanted to, you could be in it all day, every day. Yeah. And I think you will burn out that way. But I do think it's important to take time, catch yourself, and then come back, if that makes sense.
Amen to that. Okay. And guys, just so we can be fair here, since Desmond shared what he's been watching, I've been rewatching The Golden Girls.
Oh.
With the hubby. We watch it at least once a night now, one episode. And I have decided that I am Blanche and my husband is Sophia. So just wanted to share a little bit of the comfort energy on our ends. And no, I couldn't agree more. I think we are in the fight of our lives, but you have to create space to disconnect and re-engage with your community. And that's really important in all of this as well. And that's been something that I've been really happy about, is having people in my real life, meaning that I see in person, and also having people like you, Desmond, that we haven't met in real life, but we're friends. No. We're friends. And I think having connections near or far are really important to kind of get you through these things. And for all of you, I hope that you're all taking a moment every day to recenter yourself and remind yourself of who you are and why you are here. And I think at the end of the day, when I look at all of this, I remember reading this quote once, and it says, we're just walking each other home. And so that's really the thing that keeps me going, is reminding myself that we're just here to walk each other home. And so it's important that we disconnect so then we can re-engage with energy. And we're going to need energy because RFK has been testing my patience every day, it seems. And
Energy suck.
energy suck. And today was no different. I don't know if some of you saw this, but some outlets, not as many reputable outlets, which is why I'm putting a little asterisk by this story, but I want to bring it to everyone's attention because there are things happening around it that are important. Some spaces are starting to report that Trump and RFK Jr. could ban the COVID-19 vaccine within months and for everyone. This isn't, we're limiting it or all this nonsense. They're just saying for everyone. Now, there's been a lot of conversation whether this is actually going to happen or not. And one of the doctors I follow is saying, let's keep an eye on this, but let's also be aware that this could be another thing that they're doing to distract and deflect and to confuse. So then if and when the vaccine is approved for some, if not hopefully for anyone who wants it and is able to get it between a conversation between them and their doctor, that they are able to protect themselves. And I wanted to talk about this, Desmond, because I think this also goes along with everything else that we have been discussing tonight, which is really cruelty being the point. Like, there's no medical backing to removing this COVID-19 vaccine. It's just yet again, another cruelty is the point moment. So before I give some additional information for some context, do you have any thoughts around when you saw this story breaking, or just in general, what you think of the situation with RFK running us into the ground from a public health perspective?
I'm going to be a broken record here, and I apologize, but I feel like we have an administration that literally is just looking at whatever is like hot online with their base, and then just giving them like things to just like feed into their anger, feed into their hatred, feed into their conspiracy theories, like whatever they think the base wants that's going to be good for them. That is what Trump is doing, especially because like in a couple days here, Congress is going to be back in session and they do not want to talk about the Epstein files again. So whatever it takes in order to get the base to be on his side. And as we know, his base was very, very anti-vaccines. And so it just makes perfect sense to me that what this really comes down to at the end of the day, does it make any sense? No. Because on one hand, what this really does is puts him up against the pharmaceutical companies, who I'm sure he really wants no smoke with them, but he's going to get it now. But I think that what this really comes down to is that Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., really what they want at the end of the day is to create positive headlines for themselves that will put them in a good light with their base. And they do not care. They do not care how many people are harmed along the way. They don't. And that is the consistent theme across the board with all of these things. Like, they do not care who is harmed, how many people are harmed. Did it give them positive headlines? Yes or no? Like, that is what I think they care about at the end of the day.
I couldn't agree more. And I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of information about what is actually going on right now with public health outside of sensationalized headlines meant to scare us. Currently, we are on track to surpass last winter's peak in terms of COVID-19 infections. Some states are seeing a lot more, like California and Texas, Louisiana, New York, but wherever you are, the best way to protect yourself right now, if you're able to get last year's booster, again, do that. But please wear a well-fitted N95 or KN95 mask if you're out in public to help slow the spread and protect yourself against this. You don't want long COVID. But here's two good pieces of information that are positive, and then we'll move on to our final topic. RFK Jr., he may have Trump's ear, but he certainly doesn't have the respect of really anyone else in the medical world. In fact, all major physician groups have broken with RFK's Health and Human Services and CDC's recommendations. And all of those doctors amount to 270,000 physicians and public health professionals that are literally bucking these orders. And they're doing it in various ways. So stay tuned for more of that. It's very exciting to see the public health sector really pushing back against this. And one of the things I want everybody to know, because there is so much misinformation and disinformation around this scary word, mRNA, right? We're talking about a vaccine that the style of vaccine that has been around a long time, but they're so against the mRNA vaccines, which of course are the COVID vaccines, but there are many others. But here's a really cool piece of scientific research that is coming out, and I wanted everyone to know this because I think this is important that we understand that science is good. And here it is. They gave the mRNA vaccine was given to a small trial of people with pancreatic cancer. My aunt died at 55 with pancreatic cancer, so this is very near and dear to me. And half the people, half of them that they gave this mRNA vaccine to did not relapse. They had no reoccurring pancreatic cancer for 3 years. 3 years. Most people with pancreatic cancer die within 2 because it is such a difficult cancer to treat. So the fact that these vaccines are extending people's lives 3+ years beyond is huge. And the fact that now HHS under RFK Jr. has cut $500 million in mRNA vaccine funding, we need to understand how all of these dots connect. This isn't just about COVID. This is about much more than that, and the things that we can learn that we think, oh, this worked for this, but now we're finding out it worked for this, this, and this. Wow. And that's why research is so important. That's why funding science is so important. So when you're looking at things online, taking into account who's writing them and who's backing those studies is really important as well. So I just wanted to give a little scientific breakthrough information while we were here, which I thought was really interesting and could create some exciting things in the future if we can get funding reinstated, which goes back to what Desmond said of getting these people out of there and hopefully on trial.
God, hopefully. But, really important, a quick note here. I want to just say that the public health conversation has unfortunately taken a major backseat because of everything else that's going on. So I do appreciate the fact that, like, whenever Natalie and I are trying to figure out, what we're going to be talking about in these conversations, that she is consistently being like, we need to talk about this, which is, I think, really important because it kind of is getting forgotten on the cutting room floor, so to speak, because of just how many things are happening right now. So I want to say thank you for always taking the time to talk about this issue where, again, unfortunately, it's just kind of been left for dead right now with everything else going on. Because there are really big things going on in our world right now. Unfortunately, there are tragedies happening across the country, across the world. Unfortunately, I want to kind of transition to our final topic of the day, talking about a few different updates happening over in Gaza. There's about 3 different ones here, so I'm going to try to go through each of them, and then we can talk about them as a collective. Israel struck a hospital. This was on Monday, yesterday. Nasser Hospital in Khan Yunis, there was 20 people who were killed, including 5 journalists. A lot of people saw the videos of this because after Israel struck this hospital, people then came in there to check, to see if there were survivors, to see if they could get the wounded out. And Israel's military made another sweep back around, and they bombed it again after people were going in there trying to get the survivors out. A lot of people got really upset about this. Benjamin Netanyahu came out later and said that it was a mistake. I think that that's complete horseshit. But even Donald Trump actually came out and said that he was not okay with what had happened there, which is surprising, seeing how he greenlights just about everything that the IDF does over in Gaza. But I guess even he couldn't escape how bad this video looked for Israel yesterday. So it is just another instance of what I and many other people are referring to as the ongoing genocide over in Gaza. Unfortunately, that's not the only thing that I wanted to kind of talk about today here. I also wanted to mention maybe something a little bit more positive here, which is that the number of people here in the U.S. that are denouncing what's happening over in Israel has gone up, as well as the fact that now an overwhelming majority of Americans are now supporting a recognition of a Palestinian state. This is coming right after the countries of the UK, France, and Canada plan that they announced to recognize the state of Palestine in the UN meeting that will happen next month. So I believe that that is a very positive thing, Natalie. But the last thing that I wanted to also mention here, as far as like the updates of Gaza are concerned, is that Israel is now trying to recruit new members of the IDF outside of the nation of Israel. They are trying to
Mm-hmm.
go into the United States. They are trying to go into France. This is because of the fact that they have a shortage of about 10 to 12,000 people that they want to have in the IDF right now. There's been a lot of just members of the Jewish diaspora who are apparently just deciding that they are not going to answer their draft calls. They would rather face jail instead, apparently. So now the IDF hopes to bring in 600 to 700 recruits from the United States and France, to which I find that to be abhorrent for so many
Mm-hmm.
different reasons. But yeah, the shortage is coming from an aggravated low enlistment from the ultra Orthodox men. I guess there are currently 14,600 deserters on record. And the authorities said that several arrests of these draft dodgers have taken place in recent days. So Israel is in complete chaos as far as I'm
Mm-hmm.
concerned right now. They don't even have enough people to fill up their military. They're trying to get it from other countries, which I have frankly never heard of before. Outside of like people being in like, I guess I don't know, like I heard that Ukraine did this, but like at the same time, like Russia was literally like decimating like tens of thousands of
Mm-hmm.
people. Like there's no active military bombing Israel right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that they don't have the people that they claim to need is like a literal indictment on the fact that their own people are rebelling against them for all of this. So I find that to be interesting for several different reasons. But kind of just threw a lot out there at you really quickly here. So I do
Mm-hmm.
apologize about that. Probably should have broken those up into three different things here. I've been gone for 2 months. Okay.
Listen, there's a
We're
lot
gonna
to
we're
talk
gonna we're
about.
gonna figure these things out.
Yeah.
Uh, do you please let me know what your thoughts are on any of those three things that I just mentioned.
Yeah, I'm gonna start with the middle point of more and more people want to recognize the state, the Palestinian people as a state. And I think it's really important that that conversation point continues to be talked about. And here's why. Things are beyond nightmarish over there. I have a hard time. You want to talk about checking out. There's only so much of this I can read, Desmond, because I just start to fall apart because I can't imagine what it would be like to have a child and be there, to try to be surviving there, to have family there. I can't, it's hard for me to understand the level of inhumanity that they are experiencing. So for me, when I hear that more and more people around the world and here in the United States are recognizing the existence of the Palestinians, right? The acknowledgments that they are people and a people with a background and a culture and a history and all of these things that we know, but for some reason there's been now an awakening of that, which is good. I keep my head thinking, okay, this is good that people are talking about this because we need to think forward. We need
Yeah.
to think beyond this nightmare. What happens after this nightmare? Because to me, with anything, with any of the issues that you and I talked about, all of this is connected, right? Cruelty is the point, is the
Yeah.
thread that runs through all of this. So for me, it's like, what happens next? The idea of that place someday, those people someday having a home and having a sense of peace, and there being neighbors that want peace around them. That's where I have to go mentally,
Yeah.
because what they are experiencing, I don't have words for it. It is a genocide, of course, but it almost feels like that's not strong enough to explain it,
No,
right?
it doesn't really.
It doesn't, right? And so when
No.
you were talking about, to then go to the point of the IDF trying to recruit people, the difference, like you said, with Ukraine, they're in a war. Those are two militaries, right? That's a totally different thing. I mean, we're talking
Yeah.
about the Palestinian people, many of which are children.
Yeah.
There's
Half.
no half. There are
Half.
no. Thank you. There
Yeah.
are no. This is not an organized, military situation over there. So the
I mean,
idea
if the
that
IDF was taking losses, they would publicize it to the world.
100%.
The same way that the Russia's military does and the Ukrainian military does.
100%.
That's the major difference here.
But I think, of course, it's never as quickly as we want any of this to happen, obviously. But I'm glad that the people of Israel are speaking out in their way, which is saying, I'm not doing this. I'm not joining this cause. This is a bad situation. I don't want to be a part of it. I think that's important. That is a form of protest in and of itself. I don't see, other than a clear act of desperation from the Israeli military, the fact that they're trying to recruit from other countries is just bizarre to me, because it doesn't make sense why they would need to do this, other than the fact that they have lost so much popularity. And if that's the case in their own nation, they need to deal with that. They need to sit with that. They need to grapple with that. They need to understand why they got there. But as we know, propaganda is a poison, right? And just like the far right here have been poisoned with this machine of disinformation, the propaganda is generational as well. And I think a lot of people have been poisoned against humanity because of that. And it breaks my heart. And I hope, and I'm glad to see people waking up from that. And then the third point, to discuss what happened with the hospital.
Yeah.
I am at a loss there, because I've been posting about this on my own social media. I am shocked at how many journalists have died over there. Journalists dying is not normal, you guys, in military scenarios. Not at this level, Desmond. Not at this level.
Intentional. It's
completely intentional. It's completely intentional. It is not normal to have healthcare workers, aid workers, humanitarian aid workers, and journalists die. This is not okay. And so when you sent me this article, I had to actually read it, because I was like, which hospital? Because it's happening so much.
I'm surprised the hospital's still standing, honestly.
I was thinking that too.
They've destroyed almost all of them.
I was thinking that too. So I think at the end of the day, when I think about what is happening there, and to your point, just like I keep the public health conversation alive, you're always keeping this conversation alive. And I appreciate that too, because all of this is connected. And I have said this over and over and over again. You can't have a genocide at the level that we're experiencing in real time without first the dehumanization of what a pandemic can bring. And we saw this before World War II. This is history. We had the Spanish flu, then we had the rise of the Nazis, then we had the exterminations of millions of people. There is nothing that doesn't show me that history has just repeated itself, and we are on that trajectory again. Dehumanization allows you to look at people in a way that others them. Mass death, we've become normalized with that. And then you add in the factor that these people are far away, and it changes how we view one another. And so all of these conversations, whether we recognize it immediately or not, the dots are there, and they're there for us to connect. And at the end of all of this, we have to be willing to see each other in our own full humanity, even if we are not looking at someone that looks like us or sounds like us or speaks our language. We are all human beings. And I think we need to find our way back to that space.
The Palestinian presidency also called on the United Nations to protect journalists and hold Israel accountable, while the Palestinian journalist syndicate said that the incident represented an open war against free media. The Committee to Protect Journalists also urged international accountability, noting that nearly 200 journalists have been killed in Gaza since the genocide began back in October of 2023. I want to make something very clear about how I feel about all this. People would say things like, what would you do if you were alive back during the Holocaust in the 1940s? And I truly believe that we are having that moment right now. It is gut-wrenching to read these stories every single day, because there is a story every single day. I mean, some of the most atrocious things I've ever seen in my life are coming out of this on a day in and day out basis. And all of the great journalists who are out there covering this consistently, especially in the independent circuit, people who are doing so on social media consistently. I give nothing but huge thanks to these people because I get a lot of my information from them. These are sources that I trust now. And the thing that I keep coming back to is I don't really know exactly where this is all going to end because the pressure campaign from the people who really care about this have been keeping it up the whole time in the Biden administration, now in the Trump administration. But one thing I do know is that I feel like the collective consciousness globally about how people feel about uh, communities that are being oppressed, I don't know if this is ever going to go back the other direction. It feels like more and more people are standing up and speaking out for people like the Palestinians who are being occupied by another power. And I think as we continue to see these stories from now on, it feels like more and more people are going to be where they're at right now, which is speaking up on the behalf of people who are being occupied by other powers like Israel is occupying them. And seeing them talking about wanting to take all of Gaza for themselves, or they want to take all of the West Bank and essentially making it irrelevant to claim that there is a Palestinian state because they're going to take all of the Palestinian land that they even have left. Like I'm thoroughly disgusted seeing this. And I hope that as we continue to talk about this more and more and more, we will make it literally impossible for our politicians not to do something. And we're seeing that more now with the Democratic Party, to where it feels like they are now being forced to talk about this in ways that they've never wanted to over the last couple of years, because they now know that they cannot hold the positions that they've been holding and think that they are going to maintain or obtain the power that they want going forward, because their base is leaving them behind. They cannot continue to be as pro-Israel as they are and hold their positions of power going forward. And they know that. And they're now being forced to take these positions. It's not because they've just grown a conscience overnight. Like, they know that they are in an untenable position. And I think that is completely due to the fact that we have not given them any ground to stand on as far as keeping the positions that they were keeping previously.
That's right. I agree with everything that you just shared. And I just want to add on, to end on a positive note, what you just said is the fact it's due to the power of the people, right? It is the power of the pen, it's the power of journalists, it's the power of creators, it's the power of social and digital platforms, it's the power of that global collective of seeing each other in our full humanity and being willing to stand together in solidarity. And to me, when you think about this issue and how it has shaped the discourse over the past 2-ish plus years, it's astounding to me that we are at this point now where people are talking about the plight of the Palestinians in a way that they just weren't or wouldn't have even a year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago. So if we can take this energy and apply it to the other issues as well that are impacting all of us, not just here, but globally, I think we can recognize that our common enemy is not one another, but it is in fact those in power who wish to stay in power at any cost, and the billionaire class who is basically holding everyone else hostage. And to me, that is something that I would love to continue to refocus our energy on as we build hopefully a new world, because once again, past this moment, after our nightmare in this country is over, what comes next?
True. Natalie, thank you so much for, just waiting a couple months for me to get back into the live streaming thing. So yeah, 2 months since our last live. It won't be 2 months until our next one. Probably will be next week, actually.
I'm hoping it was worth the wait. Worth the wait. I always love being in conversation with you. And thanks everybody for joining us. And once again, please feel free to subscribe to our accounts up there. And until next time, everybody, just please take care of yourselves and each other. And thanks, Desmond. This was great.
Yeah, it was. But quick thing.
Okay.
Do we have like 3 minutes here?
Sure.
Okay. Tell me your feelings about Jaws. I'm so serious.
I think it's I watch it every year, every summer.
Okay.
I love Jaws. I think it's one of the classic quintessential horror films. It's different probably because if you've never seen it, I don't know what kind of
just last night, but yeah.
horror films that you've watched, but
Right.
it really began its own genre of the creature flick. It started a lot of the tropes and things that you see. I love the characters in it. I love the plot. I love the subplots. I love the tension that is built. I even think it's amazing that they used puppets. And if you read about Jaws, the puppet itself, it wouldn't work half the time. Trying to get that thing to do anything, they said was a miracle. So they filmed it out in the open water. There's no green screens. There was no studio. It's an incredible production when you read about it. So I encourage you to look into the backstory of how they made it, because I think you'll really appreciate it. And it was one of Spielberg's, like, he was such a baby when he did it, and it's such a classic to think he did that and E.T. and what is it? Encounters of the Third Kind, Close Encounters of the Third. I think that was him as well. My God, it was prolific what he did, but in that genre, and I think it's truly a masterpiece. I just love that film.
If you were giving it a rating,
oh, here we go.
If you were giving it a rating,
okay,
where does it fall on a 1 to 10 scale?
Guys, I mean, to me, it's so good. I'd probably give it an 8 or a 9 for sure.
Okay. All right. All right.
I don't think I'm giving him the answer he wanted, everybody, but that's okay.
No. I am firmly in the position that everyone's ranking and rating scale needs to be unique to them.
Yes.
You know, so like I always feel weird when people try to tell me that, like, oh, you should feel this way about a movie, you should feel that way about a movie. I'm just like, you know, I'm going to feel different about a movie than you probably will, you know, and that's okay. And then I want to return that same energy to somebody else, obviously, you know? So like, I have discovered that I'm a little more harsh on movies than other people I know, but that's okay. You know, that's completely okay. I was struggling a little bit with Jaws, just a little bit, because, you know, I'm not going into it with any nostalgia, which I think actually works to my benefit, because I'm not looking at it through the eyes of, like, I saw this when I was 10 years old and it captivated me, because, you know, we all have those movies, those TV shows, so on and so forth. So I experienced it for the first time, a 1975 movie here in 2025, 50 years later.
Sure.
Which that's crazy to say.
I know.
It was, the tension thing's real. I thought that the way they were able to create tension was really good. And
totally.
I thought that was captivating. They had a lot of fake outs that I did not expect. There were moments where I felt like something was going to happen, it didn't happen, or something did happen that you didn't think was going to happen the way it did. And so, and I thought the pacing was really good. Like, I never felt bored. Like, even if I wasn't, like, completely, like, captured by the characters of the story or whatever, like, I never felt bored in the story. Like, I was just like, I never was, like, checking the clock either, like, how much left is there, you know, like, so I felt like it definitely, like, flowed a good way. I will tell you, though, that my biggest thing that I did not like about this movie is that the mayor survived. I really wanted the mayor to get eaten by that shark. Like, I really wanted it the whole time. You know, I was like, why isn't the mayor on the beach? I want him in the water. Like, that would have just been perfect, you know? Like, they missed that opportunity.
It was a missed opportunity.
It really was. Like, that, I would have bumped up a solid, like, full point for that one. But,
hot takes.
So, I mean, but, you know, in all seriousness, my last thing here, I think that the characters, to me, I liked Chief Brody. Is that his last name?
I think, yeah.
I liked him. The other two were kind of like, the other two, like, main characters in the second half of the movie were kind of,
yeah, they're jerks.
Yeah, when all those business owners were meeting about keeping the beaches open, I was just like, can we just throw them all in the water? I just want all of them thrown in the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. For me, it just felt like it was a little lacking in the sense of, like, I guess I wasn't, like, really giving me anything that I was, like, feeling attached to as far as, like, emotion was concerned. I wasn't scared by it. I don't really have a fear of sharks. So that doesn't really make me afraid. And the characters themselves, they weren't really super compelling to me, but that was just my opinion on it. I ended up giving it a 5.
Okay.
I gave it a 5. I'm sorry.
Oh, I don't care.
Yeah. Just, Yeah, yeah.
I saw it for the first time, I think 3 or 4 summers ago. And I've
Yeah,
just rewatched it every year because to me it's just like a quintessential like summer popcorn
yeah.
creature flick. I love a creature flick, so that's like a whole other thing.
These are things I didn't know.
Big fan.
These are things I did not know.
Yep. This is the
So,
bonus footage, guys. Enjoy.
hey, you know what? People can get to know us as people. You
That's
know, like
true.
I have interests outside of talking about the news.
Thank
So,
God.
yeah, I mean, everyone needs something they talk about besides the news.
I
Or
agree.
else, like truthfully, like this kind of tying into that conversation we were having earlier. Like, if we're
Mm-hmm.
just talking about the news,
Yeah.
then you are going to burn out.
Yeah.
You are going to burn out.
I agree.
Like I 100% like believe that was not just some like weird like me trying to like just throw some random like nonsense out there. I
Mm-hmm.
truly believe that. So I think that I kind of wanted to, I think at the end here, as we're kind of like wrapping up this conversation, I thought that it's important not just to say that, but to also to show it.
All right. Well, then there will be more movie conversations ahead for us
I
and
got,
television ones
I,
too.
I have thoughts. I have thoughts.
Good.
It's
I
independent thought for
know.
a reason. All right, everyone.
All right. Thanks so much, Desmond. This was great.
We'll
Appreciate
see
all
you
of
next
you.
time.
Bye.